Is it March yet? Buzzer beaters galore in the month of February, few days away from what seemingly will be the madness, but it already feels like it.
Conference tournament play is next week already. We've got both Jesse Cook and Adam Cohen in studio to talk everything women's hoops.
And you'll have to say the entire show because you want to watch Nick and I's plays of the week. They are insane. No Pulp starts right now.
Winning the Golden Spikes.
Sonny DeShero from Auburn.
The freshman never win. The freshman never win championships.
Sharon May, you are an absolute sweat.
Cleveland the catch. Good if it does. He hit it.
Wow, it's getting serious.
Frankly, I'm pretty embarrassed.
Bang!
Welcome to our CitrusTV studios for No Pulp with Nick Zelaya. I'm Cameron Ezeir. Nick, March is just a couple days away. I'm trying to prepare myself. How do you prepare yourself?
I'm just pumped that it's March. It's just like, it's the best feeling in the world just sitting down for Selection Sunday on that March 12th. And then a couple days later, filling out that bracket, and then at 1 o'clock on Thursday, busted already.
Getting it wrong. Well, a conference that's been busting everyone's regular season brackets, if that is even a thing, the ACC. What's going on? Parity insane. Virginia, top 10 in the country. They lost twice in the past week. I mean, Florida State came back from 25 against a ranked Miami team to win at the buzzer. So any ACC team that stands out right now? Because, Nick, to me, I mean, it just seems like everyone is really on an even kill.
It feels weird because I'm a bit angry right now at Miami. If you watched Beat the Book, you know what I'm talking about. But I think Miami is still the team to beat in the ACC. I just think they have all the scoring in the world when you look at a guy like Jordan Miller, Norchad Omier, Nigel Pack when he's healthy, Isaiah Wong, who's their leading scorer. So I'm not too worried about that Florida State game. They came into that one winners of 7 straight. But I want to look at Virginia because UVA worries me a little bit. Back-to-back losses now.
They worry me a lot.
Just a little bit. It is UVA. They've got Tony Bennett. I think he'll figure it out. But to only score 48 points against Boston College, we're talking about one of the worst teams in the ACC over the last 10 years. And then to fall to North Carolina the way they did, I understand UVA is all about the low-scoring games. Tony Bennett's system's all about playing defense. You don't score as many points. You're not good shooters. But the way they played this past week was just ugly, and it was just horrendous to watch.
It was worse going to North Carolina, too.
Yes, especially for a team that just won the chip a couple years ago.
Yeah, I'm very concerned with where the ACC is at, and concerned in the way that no one team is standing out. So to anyone that roots for the ACC, you can't really root for any team because next thing you know, you root for a team, and that team goes down. 6 in the top, 6 teams with 20 or more wins. This is also a really weird stat that I found. Top 6 teams in the ACC, all of them have either lost 2 in a row or have lost 2 of 3 games twice. What does that tell you? The lack of consistency within the ACC is crazy to me. I think Clemson's the best team in the ACC just in terms of their offense and how they're able to score. But, I mean, I'd be concerned if I was an ACC fan because there's no one team to really root for.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson, back-to-back games, putting up 90-plus points.
95-plus points.
95-plus points. Let's shift now from the ACC all the way across the country to the Pac-12 because Arizona State hit a wild buzzer beater. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah.
Almost three-quarters court, nothing but net to upset Arizona. Arizona only drops 1 spot in the rankings. But does this make you worry about the Wildcats a little bit? This is a team that was a 1 seed last year in the tournament.
No.
Not
at all. Not even close. You lose a game at the Horn thanks to a 60-foot buzzer. No, you're not worried at all. The reason I'm not worried is because Arizona still has who I believe is the best player in the ACC in Azuolas Tubelis. They have the top assist man in the ACC in Kerr Kursa. On top of that, they've won 9 out of their last 11 games. It's not like Arizona has struggled to the point where you can drop them down outside the top 25. Where my thought lies is on Arizona State. I truly believe that Arizona State can be a team that makes a run in the tournament. They just need to prove it in the last couple of games in the regular season and do so in the Pac-12 tournament. Because right now, in terms of bracketology, that might be an amazing shot, but only 3 Pac-12 teams are going to the NCAA tournament as of now, thanks to bracketology. Arizona State's not one of them, but I like their team.
I mean, this is a season-defining shot for this team because you go on the road, you finish up with the 2 LA teams. You got at USC and then also at UCLA. And if you could somehow pull up a victory on the road against a Bruins team that's arguably one of the hottest teams in the country right now. That could shift things dramatically regardless of how you finish in the Pac-12 tournament. But this Arizona State team, they've been good. I think they have a resume worthy enough of making March Madness if they can win a game or two. They're 4-3 in quad one games this year, and you pick up a big win. A win like that against a top 10 team to put up 89 points, it really means a lot. It's just one game, but it really does mean a lot.
4 players scoring in double figures, that's exactly what you want. You got a 7-footer scoring 9 a game. Now I want to talk about another team with a very tall player, Zach Edey and Purdue. And before we get to it, I think I got to pull up a clip where I was 100% right on these Boilermakers. New pitfall is coming. They beat Michigan by 5. They beat Michigan State by 1. They beat Maryland by just 3. You see where I'm going with this? Houston couldn't hold number 1. North Carolina couldn't hold number 1. The Purdue pitfall is coming. I'm telling you, at least 2 to 3 losses toward the end of the season. Okay, 2 to 3 losses. How about losers of 4 of their last 6 games, back-to-back losses to unranked teams within that stretch too? The Purdue pitfall is officially here, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I was pretty high on Purdue, and you said that.
I said that.
I'm wrong.
Downfall,
I know.
nosedive.
I'm wrong. But it's just, it feels weird this past weekend. They lost that game to Indiana at home, but at the same time, they clinched the Big Ten regular season.
Didn't they split it?
It's a weird,
it's
a weird feeling for Purdue fans, but it's just been ugly. I understand losing on the road to Indiana, but to lose at home too, go on the road against Northwestern and Maryland, lose to both those teams. The Terps won by double digits. For me, it's just the guard play of this team. They're so young and inexperienced. You look at guys, Lawyer, Smith, and Morton shot a combined 7 for 27 against Indiana this past weekend. Zach Edey's not going to win you games when it comes to March. If they can make a run to the weekend, Sweet 16, Elite 8, you get to that point, Zach Edey, he can't put up 40 and 20. You need the guard play to step up. And there have been moments where these young guards have been able to play at a high level, but if you're home and you shoot the way you did, it's just not going to turn into good results.
So I completely disagree with you, and this is why. I'm just going to look right at the camera and say, well, wasn't I right about Purdue? When the same thing happens every single game with Purdue, you expect Zach Edey to score 40, you expect him to grab 20 rebounds, you expect Fletcher Lawyer to at least score 15, and when you have no one coming off the bench that provides any production, this is what happens. You fall into a nosedive. In those 4 losses, no more than 17 bench points in any of those games.
That's bad.
And Purdue didn't have a third player score in double figures. In any of those games, in March, you need depth. Purdue, in my opinion, doesn't have depth.
It happens every year to the Big Ten.
They're not.
The regular season's good. They can't do anything.
They're not a national championship contending team. I said it 4 weeks ago. I'll say it today.
Good job, man.
Hey, I got you. Maybe you can get one at the end of the show. We'll see.
We'll see.
Coming up on No Pulp after a short break, Jesse Cook joins the show to battle Nick and the Juicer. It's all about women's basketball. It's all about conference tournaments coming up this week. We got more No Pulp when we return.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
Come on, it's not that hard.
My big man fingers are having a problem with these little tiny buttons.
Whoa, watch it there. Your blood pressure's gonna go through the roof.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to learn how to get it down. Instead, it keeps going up.
High blood pressure can increase the risk for heart attack or stroke. Learn how to keep yours at a healthy range.
Ever hear a voice command? Just say text barbershop to 97779.
That's not what I said.
Just give me that. Now my blood pressure's up.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. No.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
No Pulp back in action, and Jesse Cook joining Nick and I. Jesse, this is going to be quite the time. Juicer time. I heard Jesse was 1-0. We'll see if you can add a blemish on that, Nick, or if, Jesse, you stay undefeated. How the Juicer works. 4 topics, a point doled out for each of them. The 4th topic is 2 points. That could be the deciding factor. We're talking women's college basketball.
Yeah,
we're talking conference tournaments, and we're talking the Big East to start. A lot of good teams in the Big East. Nick, who wins the women's college basketball Big East tournament?
There's only one real good team in the Big East, and that's the UConn Huskies. They've been dominating forever, and that's the thing with this team. They've got all the experience in the world, and I think that helps them, especially with the stuff this team has gone through. AZ Fudd goes down with an injury. Paige Beckers gets hurt at the start of the season. I think Fudd will come back. She hasn't played since January, but she should be back around the time that conference tournament rolls around. When I look around at the Big East, there's only about 1 or 2 players in each team that really dominates. For this UConn team, that's the thing. They have so much depth. They can have 4 or 5 players go out there and put up double-digit numbers. Aaliyah Edwards has 3 double-doubles this month. Lou Lopez-Senecal has been scoring the ball at a strong rate. This Husky team is dangerous, and I think they're a big reason they'll win the conference tournament and make a deep run. Probably another run to the Final Four. I think they've done it, 12 or 13 times?
Cam, what else do you expect? The Connecticut guy picking UConn? It's that predictable. That's like asking if a bird is going to fly, and that's why I'm picking Creighton, because the Blue Jays are going to soar to the top of the Big East right now.
That's pretty good.
So you take UConn, who is obviously a good team. There's no denying that. But Creighton led the Huskies late in the game, an 11-point lead. Now, sure, the Huskies came back on Creighton just in the last game of the season, but Creighton let that game slip away. Additionally, you have to break out the bracketology. Look at the other side of the bracket. UConn, if they win the quarterfinal round, which, let's face it, they probably will play St. John's or Marquette. Haven't beaten those teams. Guess who has? Creighton.
That's a pretty easy one. 5 losses to 7. And in terms of conference tourneys, it usually goes to the better team. Give me UConn. More experience. I like the Huskies. Give Nick the point and the early advantage. Now let's head over to the Big Ten. Starting with you, Jesse. Who wins in the Big Ten?
Got to go to the number 2 team in the nation. It's Indiana. They're on a roll. Hottest team in college basketball. Now you can give me, yes, lost to Iowa, another top 10 team, last game of the season, but that was on a buzzer-beating, half-court prayer that probably wouldn't go in under any other circumstances.
Oh, it's Caitlin Clark.
She's very good, that's true. But you take away that, the Hoosiers will have won 14 straight going into that game. Not to mention, Mackenzie Holmes has an argument for being the best player in all of women's college basketball. She's 6th in the nation in scoring, and she's doing it all in the paint.
Maryland Terps?
Oh,
I mean, what about the Terps? They've got a player that's in conversations for National Player of the Year. That's Diamond Miller. The thing with this team is, aside from Miller, they lost 4 of their starters from the Sweet 16 team last year. And it shows that despite her, and she's averaging 24.7 rebounds in the month of February, having other weapons as well is just important. You look at someone like Brianna Alexander. She led the way with 24 points in that 28-point victory against Iowa this week. You also have Abby Myers. She puts up 24 against Ohio State. That's why I think this makes this team so lethal, is they have all the weapons that when Diamond Miller is having an off night, which she rarely does, they have others in the starting lineup who can come off the bench and still make an impact. Shows why Maryland will win the Big Ten.
Which is shocking to say because Indiana, you're right, number 2 in the country. They're always on a roll, which is they haven't been that good over the past couple of years, but all of a sudden finding their stride. The issue is not as experienced in terms of road games. I think that Maryland has done more in the regular season, more prove-it wins. Again, they're a top 10 team just as Indiana is. Give Maryland the win on that. Nick up 2-0. Ooh, Jesse, this is a hole, isn't it? Well, let's see if Nick can make it even bigger. Pac-12, I know it's your favorite conference.
It is.
We're going on the women's side. Who wins the Pac-12 conference
For me,
tourney?
it's the Utah Utes. And talk about a team that turned around themselves over the last 3 seasons. They had a losing record in that shortened COVID year. Last year, they go 21-12. This year, they're 25-3. They just beat Stanford to win a share of the Pac-12 title for the first time ever. The highest seed they've ever been in an NCAA tournament is 5. Right now, looking at bracketology, which we'll get to in a little bit, they're projected 1 seed. And to get through the championship, they'll have to beat a team like Colorado, which they already did. Colorado is a 3 seed in this Pac-12 tournament. I really like Utah. It just feels like it's their season to win something like the Pac-12 tournament and make a deep run in March.
Jesse, what do you think?
Well, I'll say Utah did beat Stanford in their last meeting, but the Cardinal already beat them too. I'm going with Stanford. Got to move it out to the West Coast. I know you like that California pick.
Okay, now you're just trying to schmooze me at this point.
Whoa.
But Stanford, without a doubt, the best team in that conference. First of all, look at their ranked play. 10-2 against ranked opponents. One of them came to Utah. The other one came to the #1 team in the land in South Carolina. What are you going to do? Everybody gets one, but then they have arguably one of the best big threes in the entire NCAA, led by Cameron Brink. Then you've got Haley Jump, and you've got Haley Jones and Hannah Jump. I think that's probably the strongest team in the conference just based on those three alone.
The trio, all seniors. On the Utah side, they're led by a sophomore. Yes, was the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year last season, but again, lack of experience. I went with experience with you on the last one, so I can't shy away from my advantage. So Jesse, you get your first point. So it all comes down to this. Ooh. 2 points to decide the juicer. Nick, ACC winner, what do you think?
I'm going with Notre Dame here, and it's tough talking about Notre Dame after you lose your star player to a knee injury, but she could be back for the ACC tournament, which would be huge. I look at Notre Dame, and it's just they have all the experience. And you talk about a coach like Niele Ivey, who's only in her 3rd season, but she's only improved each year, which I love. She's got a couple of years under her belt now. It's hard to follow up Muffet McGraw, but she's done that. If Olivia Wilson can't play, who leads the team in rebounds, assists, steals, you still got Sonia Citron. She had 27 points in that win over Louisville, and that's a big thing too. They lose their star player, and they're still able to beat a top team like Louisville. I really like Notre Dame's chances, who's #1 in the ACC.
Jesse, cards on the table, marbles on the line. Who you got?
I think you're really underestimating the importance of Olivia Miles to that Notre Dame team. The Fighting Irish aren't winning the ACC. The Tar Heels of North Carolina are, and here's why. It's the same reason, those injuries. Notre Dame goes down their star player, North Carolina gets theirs back. Ashley Usby back into the lineup, led UNC to a big win over Duke in one of her first games returning from injury. You're not supposed to be 100%, and I guarantee she wasn't, and she still led the team to take down the Blue Devils. A lot of people have Duke being the #1 team in the ACC, but UNC just threw that pick out the window. Notre Dame's already in the car heading for the coast. North Carolina, without a doubt, winning the ACC.
So North Carolina early in the season won 8 straight games, and all of a sudden they seemed like a world beater. Notre Dame, they've won 8 straight, but just lost their 2 star players. My producers almost got mad at me because I went to Nick before I went to Jesse. I was supposed to go to you on the first one, but the reason I went to you last is I was hoping maybe some recency bias would go your way on the North Carolina point. It did not. It did not. North Carolina is not winning the ACC. You know what's funny? I don't think Notre Dame's winning the ACC. I just don't think North Carolina is. So your points to me were a little mute. So give me Nick, give me Nick, and give me Notre Dame to at least make it further than North Carolina. No longer undefeated in the juicer, and Nick, big juicer.
My
win.
record's like 2-23 now. So.
We're gonna take a break. When we come back, Adam Cohen joins No Pulp to talk a little women's college basketball bracketology. No more conference tourneys. We're looking ahead to the big dance of them all. March Madness coming up, and we got Adam to join us when we come back.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
They said a bottle was just a bottle. That no one would ever notice me. But I knew I could be more. That one day, I would make people smile.
Thanks so much for joining us, No Pulp. And now we bring in Adam Cohen to talk a little bracketology. Just a couple weeks away until Selection Sunday. Thanks so much for joining us, Adam.
Of course, really excited.
Well, I want to get started in the first region, which is in the Greenville. This is where the studs are in that top left region. I want to talk to you about some of the, overrated teams, interesting teams that you think will make a big run. What do you see when you look at this region?
Well, this region's got the #1 seed in South Carolina. 29-0 is ridiculous. Yeah. What a season for them. But if we're talking interesting teams, the Creighton Blue Jays are more than an interesting team to go off of. They have a net ranking at 17. They went 20-7 this season, but I'm really going to look at the fact that they came down the stretch strong. They have a great guard duo in Lauren Jensen and Morgan Molly, who each average under 16, just a touch under 16 a game. Those two are going to absolutely tear through the competition, and I see them coming into this tournament and playing upset.
Which is crazy for you to say because South Carolina, I mean, the odds-on favorites. Now let's head to the Greenville Region 2. A lot of interesting teams in this one. You got UCLA, you got USC, UConn, one of those teams that can make a deep run even though they've already lost Paige Beckers. Indiana, we just talked about them. Who do you see coming out of that one? Is there any surprise teams there?
I mean, Indiana is obviously the odds-on favorite, not just coming in as the #1, but they're really, really good. They are net ranking at 4, went 16-2 in the Big Ten, and they went 9-1 against ranked opponents. Absolutely incredible. Mackenzie Holmes is challenging for Player of the Year, averaging just over 22 points a game, blocking 2 shots a game, which is really, really good. But if we're going to move on to an interesting team, I'm going to go a little off the beaten path here, or kind of really off the beaten path. UNLV, the projected UNLV. 12 seed, out of the Mountain West, that. And I'll tell you why. They went undefeated in conference play, 17-0. Sure, they haven't seen a ranked team this season, but going 17-0 in your conference, and they haven't lost in 2023, I'm not going to bet against them.
The Running Rebels.
I'm really glad you mentioned UCLA before because I think they are super overrated. I just can't see them making it past weekend 1 or game 1.
Wow.
It's interesting with how much motion there's been in the Big Ten with a team like Indiana, the #1 CDC. Look at UConn at the bottom of that bracket. It's got to be a little scary for the Hoosiers. Let's move across west now to Seattle, region #3. And this is where we find the #1 seed, Utah, in the bracket. For me personally, this looks like the bracket that's maybe most wide open. What do you think about that?
I mean, up in that top bracket there, it's actually Stanford that's in the Region 3 top bracket, and I love Stanford. I love their resume. I see them as an absolute world beater, 10-2 against ranked teams, and they came out of a gauntlet of a Pac-12. I mean, I can't see them losing, so I really think Stanford comes out of there. But if we're going to look at an interesting team, Iowa State. Iowa State is very interesting to me because they came into the season ranked. They had a good start, sloppy middle, but are back on the rise again. And that's the type of thing you want to get hot at the right time coming into March, and they're doing just that. Overrated though, Tennessee. 0-7 against ranked teams this season.
It's not going to work in that bracket. It's not going to work.
In that bracket, it's not going to work. In any bracket, it's not going to work. You cannot convince me that a team that went 0-7 against top 25 teams is going to have a shot at getting past the first weekend. I just don't see it.
So, Adam, can you convince me that Utah has a legitimate chance in this tournament in that 4th region?
I absolutely can. Utah is a great team. Not just because they beat Stanford, but they've got some other really good wins this season. And I think they can walk out of that bracket area. But LSU is actually going to give them quite a run for their money. They're the projected 2 seed down there, and that's going to make a great Elite 8 matchup if they can make it that far. Now, LSU and Utah, those are the fun teams to talk about in that bracket. Interesting team, Jesse Cook just mentioned it, UNC. I think they're not going to win the ACC tournament.
Or the juicer.
Or the juicer. But I think if they have any chance of getting hot, which they're getting some stars back, they definitely can get hot. I think they're going to be a problem, and they can upset in the round of 32 a very weak Texas team that came into the season ranked #3. Again, good start, sloppy middle, but it's been a sloppy end as well, so I don't see them moving very far either.
Taking a look at the bubble, we've got a couple teams, Princeton and Syracuse, a couple Eastern teams, right there on the edge, just making the tournament, and then there's Oregon out of the Pac-12, Nebraska from the Big Ten, just missing out first 4 out. What do you see from the bubble? Which teams maybe just get in that aren't in yet possibly? A couple teams maybe slip out. What do you see?
So I'm going to start with Syracuse because the Syracuse-Oregon debate is really interesting to me. Syracuse is the school I attend now. I grew up rooting for Oregon. I'm from New Jersey, but I started rooting for Oregon. Syracuse does not have the resume that Oregon has, but they've played a little bit better down the stretch, and that's where you're going to get some of that debate. It all comes down to the conference tournament, which is kind of obvious, but if Syracuse can beat NC State this weekend, I think they really make their case to hold on to that last spot. Oregon, on the other hand, kind of has to run the table.
Yeah, we'll see if Syracuse can get in. We'll see if Oregon can sneak their way in. We'll take another break here on No Pulp. When we come back, Cam and I will dive into our plays of the week. Plus, we'll give our final words, and trust me, it could get a little heated.
I can't wait.
See you after.
Leaving hot coals improperly extinguished can cause a wildfire.
Hey guys, it's Smokey!
It looks as if Smokey is going to use the drown, stir, drown, and feel technique. After the first drown, a good start. Next, another drink. And finally, a close feel.
Is it cool? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Smokey, catch! Oh, my bad, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago, in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Back on No Pulp, Cameron Ezeir with you, Nick Zelaya to my left. Lots to talk about after this past week, a lot of buzzer beaters, but I'm going to quite the comeback and quite the installment of clips. Iowa takes down Michigan State, but I want you to watch Iowa's head coach and then everything that ensues afterward. Probably the best stare down you've ever seen, and then one of the best comebacks you'll ever see. Down 13 with 1:30 left. Iowa makes 6 straight threes, goes on a fouling entourage, and it works. Michigan State misses a couple free throws, and Nick, this was the shot to tie things up. Boom. Actually, they were down 2. This was the shot to tie. At this point, I didn't know which shot was to tie things up because I'm just shocked that Iowa even had a chance. Iowa wins. Probably the best sequence I've ever seen in all of college basketball.
I saw on Twitter someone took the under in this game.
Oh.
That's tough. There were millions of buzzer beaters this past weekend, but I had to go to a ferocious dunk. And we go to the Big Ten. Ohio State and Illinois. And I'm going to introduce you to the freshman Bryce Sensabaugh. He was on a fast break, and let's just say he threw it all over Matthew Meyer. The stare down, too, makes it awesome. Turning defense into offense, just one-handed. That felt like an awkward angle, too, but he just, oh my Lord.
You can do that, right?
I wish. God, that was a sick dunk, and Ohio State, they've had a tough year, but cool play there.
I think that will maybe nullify some of the bad losses. Now to my final word. The ACC, it's wacky, it's crazy, but Clemson is going to win the ACC tournament. Back-to-back games scoring over 95 points, but this is why. There's only one team in the ACC in the top half of the conference that is in the top half of the conference in field goal percentage, three-point percentage, scoring, free throw percentage, rebounds, and is also bottom half in the ACC in turnovers. That's the Clemson Tigers. They're consistent. They have the big men, 2 6'10" players, and they have Hunter Tyson playing his best basketball. Give me Clemson to win the ACC tournament and even give the NCAA tournament a run for its money.
All eyes are on you, Alabama basketball, both on the floor and off the floor. I understand you're going to be a 1 seed this year in March Madness. There's no doubt about that. But off the floor, you need to start acting like one. This past weekend, Brandon Miller, after allegedly bringing a gun to his teammate to lead to the killing of an innocent woman, he did a little pat-down celebration. For the average fan, it's disgusting to see. For a basketball fan like Cam and I, we understand that's a big it's a usual celebration, people doing the little pat-down thing. That's normal. But these guys, have hundreds of handshakes that they can do. And to not do that and do the little pat down thing, Alabama, they better fix themselves.
They're getting a lot of enemies right now. That's Nick. I'm Cam. Thanks to our executive producer, Liam Griffin, and everyone behind the scenes. Hope you enjoyed No Pulp, and we'll see you next week.